The blaring sound of the fire alarm pierced through the peaceful night at the Westwood Grand Hotel, jolting Brent Ziegler from his light sleep. His first thought wasn't for himself, but for his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, who was sleeping in the adjacent bed. In the dim red glow of the emergency lights, he could see her stirring, confused and frightened. "Daddy!" Her voice trembled as the alarm continued to wail. "It's okay, sweetheart," Brent said, already out of bed and pulling on his jeans. "We need to go outside for a little bit. The alarm is telling us to leave the building." He scooped up his daughter, still in her pink pajamas decorated with unicorns, and grabbed the room key. There was no time for shoes or jackets. The January air in Chicago would be biting, but safety came first. As Brent stepped into the hallway, other hotel guests were emerging from their rooms, some looking annoyed, others frightened. The corridor was filling with a light haze, not thick smoke, but enough to indicate this wasn't a drill. "Hold your breath if it gets smoky, Lily," he instructed, pulling the collar of her pajama top up to cover her nose and mouth. "We're going to be fine." Lily nodded against his shoulder, her small arms tightening around his neck as he moved swiftly toward the stairwell. The elevators were shut down during emergencies, and they were on the 12th floor. It would be a long way down, but Brent's construction work had kept him fit enough for the task. As he pushed open the door to the stairwell, he heard a sound from behind him, a muffled cry of pain. Turning, he saw a woman stumbling out of her room, clearly disoriented. She was elegant even in crisis, wearing silk pajamas, her dark hair falling in waves around her shoulders. But she was limping badly, clutching the doorframe for support. "Are you okay?" Brent called, hesitating at the stairwell door. The woman looked up, pain evident in her expression. "I think I sprained my ankle when I jumped out of bed. You two go ahead." Brent shook his head. "Not a chance." He shifted Lily to his left arm and approached the woman. "We'll help you down." "What's your name?" "Katherine," she replied, looking uncertainly at him and the child in his arms. "Katherine Nichols. But really, I can manage." "I'm Brent, and this is Lily. And no, you can't. Not 12 flights of stairs on a bad ankle." He offered his free arm. "Lean on me, we'll go together." Katherine hesitated for only a second before nodding gratefully. As she put her weight on his arm, Brent noticed how the simple touch sent an unexpected warmth through him, a warmth that had nothing to do with the potential fire in the building. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice cultured and smooth despite the stress of the situation. The stairwell was crowded with guests making their way down. Brent kept Lily secure in one arm while supporting Katherine with the other. It was slow going, but he maintained a steady pace, occasionally murmuring reassurances to both his daughter and the stranger who depended on him. "You're very strong," Katherine observed as they reached the 8th floor, the strain of helping both of them not showing on Brent's face. He gave a modest shrug. "Construction work keeps you in shape." Lily, who had been quiet until now, looked at Katherine with curious eyes. "Your pajamas are pretty." Katherine smiled warmly at the child. "Thank you, sweetheart. I like your unicorns, too." As they continued their descent, Brent learned that Katherine was in Chicago for a business meeting. She didn't elaborate, and he didn't press for details. His focus was on getting them all safely outside. By the 5th floor, the smoke was thicker, and Katherine was struggling more with each step. Without warning, Brent stopped and made a quick decision. "This isn't working fast enough," he said, and before Katherine could protest, he had shifted Lily to sit on his shoulders and swept Katherine into his arms. "What are you doing?" she gasped, automatically wrapping her arms around his neck. "Getting us out of here faster," he replied simply, beginning to descend the stairs with both of them. The added weight was considerable, but adrenaline and determination kept him moving. Katherine was stunned into silence, torn between embarrassment and genuine relief. No man had carried her since she was a child, and here was this stranger, already burdened with his daughter, taking on her weight as well. They finally reached the ground floor, where firefighters were directing people toward the exits. Outside, the January air hit them like a wall of ice. Brent had forgotten how cold Chicago winters could be. It was a far cry from the mild Tennessee weather they were used to. "Daddy, I'm cold," Lily whimpered from atop his shoulders. Katherine, who was still in Brent's arms, immediately began shrugging out of her silk pajama top, revealing a thin camisole beneath. "Here, wrap this around her," she insisted, handing the garment to Brent. "But you'll freeze," he protested. "I'll be fine. Please, she needs it more." Brent reluctantly accepted the silk top and managed to wrap it around Lily's shoulders. The gesture touched him deeply. This stranger was willing to suffer the cold for his daughter's comfort. Emergency services had set up a triage area where hotel staff were distributing blankets. Brent carried Katherine to a paramedic, who immediately began examining her ankle. "It's probably just a sprain," the paramedic confirmed after a brief assessment, "but you should stay off it for a few days and get it properly checked out." Katherine nodded, then looked up at Brent and Lily with concern. "Are you two okay?" Lily, now wrapped in an emergency blanket as well as Katherine's silk top, nodded bravely. "Daddy carried us both. He's super strong." Brent smiled, smoothing his daughter's hair. "We're fine. How about you?" "Do you have someone here with you?" Katherine shook her head. "I'm traveling alone. It's just a short business trip." The hotel manager approached them, clipboard in hand. "We're getting everyone accounted for. The fire department has contained the small kitchen fire that triggered the alarm. There's minimal damage, but we need to complete safety checks before allowing guests back inside. We're arranging transportation to a sister hotel for the night." Brent frowned. "Will our belongings be safe?" "Yes, sir." "Security will remain on site, and you'll be able to retrieve your things tomorrow morning." As the manager moved on to the next group of guests, Brent realized he was still standing very close to Katherine. There was something about her, a quiet dignity, an innate kindness that drew him to her. "So, what brings you to Chicago in January?" he asked, trying to distract them both from the cold. Katherine hesitated. "Business meetings. Boring corporate stuff." "Nothing boring about a midnight fire evacuation," Brent joked, earning a genuine laugh from her. "True. This certainly wasn't in my itinerary." She looked at Lily, who was starting to doze against her father's shoulder despite the commotion. "What about you two?" Brent's expression softened. "We're here because Lily won a national art competition for kids. The award ceremony is tomorrow." "Really?" Katherine looked impressed. "That's wonderful. Congratulations, Lily." The child mumbled a sleepy "thank you" without opening her eyes. "She's been drawing since she could hold a crayon," Brent said proudly. "Her art teacher entered her painting in the contest without telling us. The prize includes a scholarship fund for her education. It's a big deal for us." Katherine heard something in his voice of vulnerability, a hint that this scholarship meant more than just recognition of talent. Before she could respond, hotel staff began directing people toward shuttle buses. "They're taking us to the Lakeside Inn," a staff member announced. "Please stay together and board in an orderly fashion." As they moved toward the buses, Brent realized Katherine was still struggling to walk. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to offer his support again. She nodded gratefully, leaning against him as they made their way to the vehicle. On the short ride to the replacement hotel, Lily finally succumbed to sleep, her head resting in her father's lap. Katherine watched them, noticing how Brent's rough, work-worn hands gently stroked his daughter's hair. "You're a wonderful father," she said quietly. He looked up, surprised by the compliment. "I try to be. It's just been the two of us since she was 3. Katherine wanted to ask more, but sensed his reluctance to elaborate. Instead, she found herself sharing more than she had intended. "I never had that," she admitted. "My father was always working. Important meetings, business trips, I barely saw him." "I'm sorry," Brent said, and the genuine empathy in his voice made Katherine feel unexpectedly vulnerable. At the Lakeside Inn, the staff had prepared emergency toiletry kits and T-shirts for the displaced guests. Katherine insisted on getting her own room, despite Brent's concern about her ankle. "I'll be fine," she assured him. "But perhaps we could meet for breakfast." I'd love to hear more about Lily's art. Brent's smile lit up his tired face. We'd like that. They exchanged room numbers, and as Katherine limped away with the assistance of a hotel employee, Brent felt a strange reluctance to see her go. He had just met this woman during a fire alarm, yet somehow it felt like the beginning of something significant. The next morning, Brent woke early, as was his habit from years of construction work. Lily was still sound asleep, curled up in the queen-sized bed they shared. He took advantage of the quiet moment to shower and shave, realizing with amusement that he was putting more effort into his appearance than usual. At 7:30, there was a soft knock at their door. Brent opened it to find Katherine standing there, looking transformed. Gone were the silk pajamas, replaced by an elegant pantsuit that somehow managed to look both professional and feminine. Her dark hair was pulled back into a neat chignon, and subtle makeup enhanced her features. "Good morning," she said with a smile. "I hope I'm not too early." "Not at all," Brent replied, suddenly conscious of his simple jeans and button-down shirt. "Lily's just waking up." "Come in." Katherine entered the room, moving carefully but without the pronounced limp of the night before. "The hotel doctor wrapped my ankle this morning. It's much better." Lily sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes. When she spotted Katherine, her face brightened. "You're the lady with the pretty pajamas," Katherine laughed, a warm, melodic sound that seemed to fill the room. "That's me. I hear you're quite the artist, Lily." The little girl nodded eagerly. "I painted a picture of our home in Tennessee. It has trees and mountains and our little house." "I'd love to see it sometime," Katherine said, sitting on the edge of the bed. As Lily chatted animatedly about her artwork, Brent observed the easy way Katherine engaged with his daughter. There was no condescension, no talking down to her. She listened to Lily as if the child's words were important, asking thoughtful questions that showed genuine interest. After Lily was dressed, they headed down to the hotel restaurant for breakfast. Katherine insisted on treating them, waving away Brent's protests. "Please, let me thank you properly for helping me last night," she said. "It's the least I can do." Over breakfast, Brent learned that Katherine was 34, just 2 years younger than himself. She had grown up in Boston, loved classical music, and had a weakness for chocolate croissants. What she didn't mention was the nature of her business in Chicago, and Brent didn't ask, assuming it was something corporate and likely uninteresting. "So, what time is Lily's award ceremony?" Katherine asked as they finished their meal. 2:00 at the Children's Art Museum downtown, Brent replied. Katherine hesitated, then asked, "Would it be inappropriate if I came? I'd love to support Lily, but I understand if it's a family thing." Lily's eyes lit up. "Please come." "You can sit with us and see my painting." Brent smiled at his daughter's enthusiasm. "We'd be honored to have you there." Katherine's face brightened. "Then it's settled. I have a meeting this morning, but I'll meet you at the museum." As she excused herself to prepare for her meeting, Brent found himself watching her leave, admiring her confidence and grace. There was something special about this woman who had entered their lives through such unusual circumstances. Later that morning, Brent and Lily returned to the Westwood Grand to collect their belongings. The hotel was operational again, the small kitchen fire having caused minimal damage. They had time to rest before heading to the museum for the ceremony. The Children's Art Museum was bustling with excited children and proud parents when they arrived. Lily's painting was displayed prominently among the winners, a colorful depiction of their modest home nestled against the Tennessee mountains, rendered with surprising skill for a 6-year-old. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Brent said, kneeling beside her. "You captured it perfectly." Lily beamed but kept glancing toward the entrance. "Is Katherine coming?" "She said she would," Brent assured her, though he was beginning to wonder himself. The ceremony was due to start in 15 minutes, and there was no sign of her. Just as they were being directed to take their seats, Katherine appeared, slightly breathless. She had changed into a deep blue dress that accentuated her eyes, and her hair now fell in soft waves around her shoulders. "I'm so sorry I'm late," she apologized, joining them. My meeting ran longer than expected. Lily threw her arms around Catherine's waist. You came? Of course I did, Katherine replied, smoothing the child's hair. I wouldn't miss it for the world. During the ceremony, Brent found himself dividing his attention between his daughter's proud moment on stage and the woman sitting beside him. Katherine applauded enthusiastically as Lily received her award, her eyes shining with what appeared to be genuine pride. It touched Brent deeply to see someone who had known his daughter for less than a day showing such support. After the ceremony, as they stood admiring Lily's displayed artwork, a well-dressed man approached Katherine, nodding respectfully. Miss Nichols, I didn't expect to see you here, he said. Will you still be joining us for the dinner meeting tonight? Katherine smiled professionally. Yes, of course, Mr. Harrington. 7 o'clock at Le Cirque, correct? Correct, he confirmed, then glanced curiously at Brent and Lily before excusing himself. Brent raised an eyebrow. Friend of yours. Business associate, Katherine replied dismissively. Just part of why I'm in Chicago. As they left the museum, Katherine suggested they celebrate Lily's achievement with ice cream, despite the January chill. At the nearby parlor, Lily delighted in creating a sundae with multiple toppings, while the adults settled for simpler options. So, when do you head back to Tennessee? Katherine asked, absently stirring her vanilla ice cream. Tomorrow morning, Brent replied. I need to get back to work. We've been away for 3 days already. What kind of construction do you do? I run a small renovation company, mostly residential projects, kitchen remodels, bathroom upgrades, that sort of thing. He paused, suddenly self-conscious about the modesty of his career compared to whatever corporate position she likely held. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Usually. Katherine tilted her head. You sound like you enjoy it. I do, he admitted. There's something satisfying about transforming spaces, making them better. And I can usually bring Lily with me to the office after school. My assistant, Paula, helps watch her while I'm on job sites. That flexibility must be invaluable as a single parent, Katherine observed. Brent nodded, watching Lily happily devour her ice cream creation. Her mother left when Lily was 3, said she wasn't cut out for motherhood or small-town life. He hadn't meant to share that, but something about Katherine made it easy to talk. I'm sorry, Katherine said softly. That must have been difficult for both of you. It was tough at first, Brent acknowledged. But honestly, we're better off. Lily deserves stability and love, not someone who resents being her mother. Katherine reached across the table and briefly touched his hand, a gesture of understanding that sent that same unexpected warmth through him. You've given her that stability. It's evident in how confident and happy she is. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Brent felt a connection that transcended their brief acquaintance. Then Lily interrupted with a chocolate-covered grin, breaking the spell. Daddy, can Katherine come visit us in Tennessee? The question caught both adults off guard. Brent stammered. Lily, Katherine is a busy person with her own life. She probably doesn't have time to. I'd love to sometime, Katherine interjected, surprising herself with the sincerity of her response. If that would be okay with your dad. Brent's heart skipped a beat. You'd be welcome anytime. As evening approached, Katherine reluctantly mentioned her business dinner. I have to go prepare, she said, genuinely disappointed, but I've had a wonderful day with you both. We have too, Brent replied. Thank you for coming to Lily's ceremony. It meant a lot to her, to us. They exchanged phone numbers, and Katherine knelt to give Lily a hug goodbye. Congratulations again, little artist. Keep painting those beautiful pictures. After Katherine left, Lily looked up at her father with wise eyes. Daddy, do you like Katherine? Brent chuckled, ruffling her hair. Yes, I do. She's very nice. No, Lily insisted. I mean, do you like her, like when Prince Charming likes the princess? Brent felt his cheeks warm. It's not that simple, sweetheart. Grown-up relationships are complicated. Why? Lily persisted. She's pretty and kind, and she gave me her pajama top when I was cold. Out of the mouths of babes, Brent thought. His daughter had a point. There was something special about Katherine Nichols, something that had caught his attention from the moment he'd seen her in that smoke-filled hallway. That evening, as Brent was tucking Lily into bed, his phone buzzed with a text message from Katherine. Had to step out of my dinner meeting to say thank you again for today. Meeting you both has been the highlight of my trip. Safe travels tomorrow. Brent smiled, typing back. The pleasure was ours. Let us know if you're ever in Tennessee. He didn't expect a response, assuming she'd returned to her dinner. But moments later, his phone buzzed again. I might take you up on that. Would it be okay if I called you sometime? His heart raced as he replied. I'd like that very much. As he set his phone down, Brent realized he knew very little about this woman who had so quickly captured his attention and possibly his heart. Yet somehow, that didn't matter. There was something genuine about her, something that resonated with him in a way no one had since long before his marriage had failed. The following morning, as Brent and Lily were preparing to check out of the hotel, the desk clerk handed him an envelope. This was left for you, Mr. Ziegler. Inside was a handwritten note from Katherine. Dear Brent and Lily, I'm sorry I couldn't say goodbye in person. Early meetings called. Thank you for making what should have been a routine business trip into something special. Lily, I've enclosed something for your next masterpiece. Brent, I meant what I said about calling. Until then, Katherine. Also in the envelope was a gift certificate to a high-end art supply store made out to Lily Ziegler. Look, Daddy, Lily exclaimed. I can get real paints like the grown-up artists. Brent smiled, touched by Katherine's thoughtfulness. As they headed to the airport, he found himself looking forward to her call more than he would have thought possible after knowing someone for just 2 days. Back in Tennessee, life resumed its normal rhythm. Brent threw himself into his work, trying not to check his phone too often for messages from Katherine. After a week with no contact, he began to wonder if their connection had been one-sided, a product of unusual circumstances rather than genuine attraction. Then, on a rainy Tuesday evening as he was reviewing project quotes at his kitchen table, his phone rang with an unknown number. Hello, he answered cautiously. Brent, it's Katherine. Her voice sounded slightly nervous. Is this a good time? Relief and pleasure washed over him. It's a great time. How are you? Busy, she admitted. I just got back from a business trip to London, but I've been thinking about you and Lily a lot. They talked for over an hour, the conversation flowing naturally from topic to topic. Katherine asked about his current projects, and he found himself describing the challenges of a historical home renovation he was working on. She listened attentively, asking insightful questions that showed genuine interest. When he asked about her work, she was vague again, mentioning corporate responsibilities and business development without specifics. Brent didn't press, assuming she found her work boring or too complicated to explain. Can I talk to Lily? Katherine asked eventually, if she's still awake. Lily was delighted to speak with the lady from the fire alarm, as she called Katherine. She chatted enthusiastically about her new art supplies and the painting she was working on for school. Over the next few weeks, their calls became regular, sometimes brief check-ins. Other times lengthy conversations that stretched late into the night after Lily was asleep. Katherine shared stories from her childhood, her love of sailing, her dream of someday opening a bakery despite having limited cooking skills. Brent told her about his journey from construction worker to small business owner, his struggles and triumphs as a single father, his hope to someday build his own house on a piece of land he'd bought years ago. What he didn't share was how much he'd begun to look forward to her calls, how her voice had become a comfort at the end of long days. It seemed too soon, too unlikely given the distance between them and the differences in their lives. Then, a month after their meeting in Chicago, Katherine called with unexpected news. I have to come to Nashville for business next week, she said. It's only about an hour from you, right? About that, Brent confirmed, his pulse quickening. How long will you be there? 3 days. I was hoping, Maybe I could drive out to see you and Lily one evening, or you could come to Nashville for dinner. We'd love that, Brent said without hesitation. Lily's been asking when she'll see you again. Only Lily, Katherine teased, a smile evident in her voice. Well, her father's been wondering too, Brent admitted, pleased by her playfulness. They arranged for Katherine to visit them on her second evening in Tennessee. As the day approached, Brent found himself uncharacteristically nervous, cleaning their modest home thoroughly and even buying new shirts for both himself and Lily. Is Katherine going to be your girlfriend? Lily asked as they prepared dinner on the evening of her visit. Brent nearly dropped the salad bowl. We're just friends, Lily. She lives in Boston, remember? But you smile when you talk to her on the phone, Lily observed with the unnerving perception of children. And you changed your shirt 3 times today. Before Brent could formulate a response, the doorbell rang. Taking a deep breath, he went to answer it, Lily racing ahead of him. Katherine stood on their porch, looking even more beautiful than he remembered. She wore simple jeans and a sweater rather than the business attire he'd seen her in before, her hair loose around her shoulders. In her hands were a bouquet of flowers and a wrapped package. These are for the house, she said, handing the flowers to Brent. And this, she knelt to Lily's level, is for the artist. Lily tore open the package to find a professional quality sketchbook and a set of colored pencils that Brent recognized as far more expensive than anything he could have afforded. Thank you, Lily exclaimed, throwing her arms around Katherine's neck. You shouldn't have, Brent said quietly as they moved into the living room. That's too generous, Katherine shook her head. It makes me happy to encourage her talent. Please let me. Dinner was a relaxed affair, with Lily dominating the conversation, eager to share every detail of her life with their visitor. Katherine listened attentively, asking questions and laughing at Lily's unintentionally humorous observations about school and friends. After dinner, Lily insisted on showing Katherine her room and her art collection. As the two disappeared down the hallway, Brent cleaned up, smiling at the sound of their laughter. She's asleep, Katherine announced when she returned to the living room 30 minutes later. She asked me to read her a story, and she was out by the second page. The excitement of your visit, Brent explained, gesturing for Katherine to join him on the couch. She's been counting down the days. So have I, Katherine admitted, settling beside him. I've missed you both. The simple confession hung in the air between them, charged with meaning. Brent found himself moving closer, drawn to her in a way he couldn't explain. I've missed you too, he said softly. More than makes sense for someone I've known such a short time. Katherine's eyes met his, vulnerability visible in their depths. Does it have to make sense? In answer, Brent leaned forward and kissed her gently, a question more than a demand. Katherine responded immediately, her hand coming up to rest against his cheek as she returned the kiss with equal tenderness. When they pulled apart, Brent saw his own wonder reflected in her expression. I've been wanting to do that since Chicago, he confessed. Even when I was in those ridiculous silk pajamas with a swollen ankle, she teased. Especially then, he replied with a smile. There's something about a woman who gives up her pajama top for a child she just met that's irresistible. They talked for hours, sitting close on the couch, occasionally sharing soft kisses that felt both new and somehow familiar. As midnight approached, Katherine reluctantly mentioned her early meeting the next day. I should go, she said, though she made no move to leave. My hotel's an hour away. Brent hesitated, then offered, We have a guest room. It's nothing fancy, but you're welcome to stay. Katherine's smile was worth any momentary awkwardness his suggestion might have caused. I'd like that, thank you. The next morning, Lily was delighted to find Katherine at the breakfast table, helping her father make pancakes. The domestic scene felt so natural that Brent had to remind himself they were still virtual strangers in many ways. After breakfast, Katherine reluctantly prepared to leave for her meeting in Nashville. At the door, she knelt to hug Lily goodbye. Will you come back? The child asked plaintively, Katherine looked up at Brent, something unspoken passing between them. "If your dad doesn't mind, I'd very much like to." "Mind?" Brent laughed softly. "I'm already wondering how soon you can return." Katherine stood, her eyes holding his. "I have to go back to Boston tomorrow, but I was thinking, maybe you and Lily could visit me sometime. I could show you the harbor, take you sailing if the weather's good." "We'd love that," Brent said, surprising himself with how easily he accepted the invitation despite the financial strain such a trip would place on his budget. As if reading his mind, Katherine added, "I have plenty of frequent flyer miles from all my business trips. Let me use them for your tickets. Please." Brent started to refuse, his pride bristling, but Lily's excited gasp made him reconsider. "We'll talk about it," he compromised, walking Katherine to her rental car. Before she got in, Katherine turned to him. "Brent, there's something I should tell you about my job." He silenced her with a gentle kiss. "Whatever it is can wait, we have time." The relief in her eyes puzzled him, but he didn't press. As he watched her drive away, Brent realized that despite the uncertainty of their situation, the distance between them, the differences in their lives, he felt more hope for the future than he had in years. 2 weeks later, Brent and Lily boarded a plane to Boston, both nervous and excited about their first visit to Katherine's world. She met them at the airport, her face lighting up when she spotted them coming through the arrival gate. "Welcome to Boston," she exclaimed, hugging Lily tightly before turning to Brent with a more restrained but equally warm embrace. As they collected their luggage, Brent noticed people nodding respectfully to Katherine as they passed. One airport employee even hurried over to assist them, addressing her as Miss Nichols with noticeable deference. "You must come here often," Brent observed as they were escorted to a waiting car, not a taxi, but a sleek black sedan with a driver. Katherine looked slightly uncomfortable. "Yes, I travel frequently for work." The driver loaded their bags and opened the door for them with practiced efficiency. "Where to, Miss Nichols? Your home or the office?" "Home, please, Thomas," she replied, ushering Lily into the car's plush interior. Brent raised an eyebrow but said nothing. As they drove through Boston, Katherine pointed out landmarks to Lily, who pressed her face against the window in wonder at the historic city. When the car turned into an exclusive neighborhood and stopped before an elegant brownstone, Brent could no longer contain his curiosity. "Katherine, what exactly do you do for a living?" She took a deep breath, looking suddenly nervous. "I was going to tell you tonight, after you'd settled in." She paused as the driver opened their door. "I'm the CEO of Nichols Enterprises. We're a technology development firm specializing in sustainable energy solutions." Brent stared at her, processing this information as they walked up the steps to her home, a home that, he now realized, probably cost more than he would earn in a lifetime. "You're a CAO," he repeated, the pieces finally falling into place, the respect she commanded, her vague descriptions of her work, the business meetings, the luxury items she seemed to take for granted. "Yes," she confirmed, watching his face carefully. "I should have told you sooner, but I was afraid it would change things between us. After my divorce 3 years ago, I've been wary of people who are interested in my position rather than me." As they entered her home, a stunning space with high ceilings, tasteful art, and clearly expensive furnishings, Brent felt a momentary panic. What was he doing here? How could he, a small-town contractor struggling to make ends meet, have anything to offer this accomplished, wealthy woman? Lily, oblivious to the tension, exclaimed over the grand piano in the living room. "Can you play, Katherine?" "A little," Katherine admitted. "Would you like me to teach you a simple song?" As Lily eagerly sat beside Katherine on the piano bench, Brent took a moment to collect his thoughts. The woman gently showing his daughter how to play "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" was the same person who had given up her pajama top in the cold, who had listened to his stories about construction problems with genuine interest, who had laughed at his jokes and shared her dreams with him over late-night phone calls. Her job title and bank account didn't change any of that, When Katherine glanced up and caught his eye, the uncertainty in her expression tugged at his heart. He crossed the room and sat beside them at the piano. "So, CAO," he said lightly, "do you still want to teach this struggling contractor how to sail tomorrow?" The relief that washed over her face was answer enough, but she said it anyway. More than anything. Later that night, after Lily had been tucked into the guest room bed, Katherine and Brent sat in her living room, talking about the revelation. "I was afraid you'd feel deceived," she admitted, curled beside him on the sofa. "Or intimidated." "I won't pretend it isn't a lot to process," Brent said honestly. "And yes, there's a part of me wondering what you see in someone like me." Katherine took his hand, her eyes serious. "When that fire alarm went off, you didn't hesitate to help a stranger, even though you already had your daughter to protect. You carried both of us down 12 flights of stairs without complaint. That kind of strength, not just physical, but of character, is rare, Brent." She moved closer, her voice softening. "And then I got to know you, to see how you've built a life for Lily with such love and dedication, how you take pride in your work even when it's difficult. How could I not fall for you?" The word fall hung between them, neither having explicitly expressed the depth of their feelings until now. "You're falling for me?" Brent asked, his voice rough with emotion. Katherine nodded, vulnerable despite her powerful position in the business world. "I am. Is that okay?" In answer, Brent pulled her into his arms, his kiss conveying everything words couldn't: his admiration, his desire, his own falling. The weekend passed in a blur of new experiences. Katherine took them sailing in the harbor, showed them historic sights around Boston, and introduced Lily to her favorite ice cream shop. Watching Katherine with his daughter patient, kind, genuinely interested in Lily's thoughts and feelings, Brent felt the last of his reservations melt away. On their final evening, as Lily slept peacefully after their busy day, Brent and Katherine stood on her rooftop terrace, overlooking the city lights. "I don't want to go back tomorrow," Brent admitted, his arm around her waist. "Then don't," Katherine said impulsively. "Stay longer." He smiled ruefully. "I have jobs scheduled, clients waiting, and Lily has school." Katherine nodded, understanding the responsibilities that defined his life. After a moment, she said, "What if I came to Tennessee more often? I could work remotely some days. My company has a satellite office in Nashville I could use when necessary." "You do that?" Brent asked, touched by her willingness to accommodate his life. "For us?" She gestured between them. "Absolutely." As they stood there under the stars, Brent realized that what had begun with a fire alarm in a Chicago hotel had become something neither of them had expected: a chance at love, at family, at a future together. 1 year later, Katherine stood in the freshly completed kitchen of Brent's dream house, the one he'd built on his land with his own hands, with some financial backing from his now wife. Lily, now 7, was setting the table for their first dinner in their new home, chattering about the mural she planned to paint in her bedroom. "Happy?" Brent asked, coming up behind Katherine and wrapping his arms around her waist, his wedding ring catching the late afternoon sunlight. "Incredibly," she replied, turning in his embrace to face him. "Who would have thought a fire alarm could lead to all this?" Brent smiled, thinking of that night, how he'd carried a limping stranger down 12 flights of stairs, never imagining she would become the center of his world. Sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected beginnings. As Lily called them to dinner, Brent and Katherine joined hands, stepping forward together into the life they'd built: a life that had started with a blaring alarm, a sprained ankle, and a struggling dad who had no idea he was leading his future wife to safety.